Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of the Pampered Life, where we celebrate self-care, slow, intentional living, and soulful entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Dr. Regina Ransom, and today's episode is one many of you have been asking for, which is how I turn Pampered Soaps from a hobby into a full-blown luxury skincare brand. Whether you're whipping up body butter in your kitchen or dreaming of your own product line or just want to be more healthy, this episode is your permission to sip your favorite beverage, slip into a dream, and dream big and build smart. So let's light the candle, sip on your herbal tea, and let's dive in. So let's go back to the beginning. Pampered Soaps was born out of a deeply personal need. Now, for many of you that know my story, I grew up in a family with a mom and a grandma that were big on natural remedies, herbal medicines, growing their own herbs. My great-grandmother and my grandma and my mother all grew like their gardens. They had herbs they would grow. So I grew up with that. And that was something I always took with me as a young adult. I wanted to be able to have just natural remedies for things, especially when I started having my own children. I didn't want to have to go to the store and get Tylenol if they were sick or, do any of those things when I knew there was a natural remedy that would help. So that's where everything really started from. I grew up learning how to make my own things. I was taught some of these things. My mom made soap, her own dish detergent. She made, even washing powder and essential oils and all the things, right? So as a young adult, I honed in on those skills. So it was really a personal need because I was frustrated with all of the chemicals and trying to read the labels in the store. Like, what is this stuff they're putting in these products? I don't even know how to pronounce half these things that are on these labels. So a little bit of frustration as well. So I was juggling all of that and juggling my therapy practice, and my own self-care was suffering because I'm worried about taking care of everyone else. So I needed a way to unwind that felt nurturing. So I started making soaps in my kitchen just for the family. What started as a weekend hobby quickly turned into a therapeutic ritual. So friends and clients began asking for samples, and the feedback that I received was very consistent. This feels like luxury. Your products make me feel seen. So I kept hearing things like this, just from free samples. And that's when I knew I had something special, similar to what, my mom and grandma had, but different. So I decided that this is more than just samples and doing things internally. But I realized a product isn't a business until you treat it like one. And I wasn't treating it like a business because I was just like, okay, I'm just going to do it for the family and friends or and who asked for it, maybe clients, and that's it. But then I realized that I need to make this into a business. So making that shift required me to do three things. My mindset, I had to stop playing small. I asked myself, if Lush and Joe Malone started in kitchens, then why not Pampered Soaps? Branding. I didn't just want to sell soap now. I wanted to sell an experience. That's where the name Pampered Soaps came in, because I felt like it was luxury, holistic, handmade. Over the years, I've elevated the packaging, invested in clean design, and learned how to get the name Pampered Soaps out there and the meaning behind it. I leaned into my mission to make everyday rituals feel sacred. And then there was the structure. I registered my business. I set up a separate bank account, found a small batch manufacturer, and created systems. Consistency turned curiosity and conversions. And this was just testing for me. Because sometimes in this business, you can have a manufacturer do things for you, or you can do your own. I tried just a small batch with a manufacturer, and I didn't like the quality. And I'm like, well, I've been doing this myself, so I need to continue to do this. I think the product is better when it is generally made in home or in a facility of my own that I control. Now, we went from kitchen to now we have a small warehouse that we make all of our soaps and candles out of. And I enjoy doing that. And I would never at this point in the business hand it over to anyone else to do. Because honestly, no one can do it like me. Yeah, you can teach somebody to make soap or make candles or any other product. But nobody is going to do it like me. Nobody has the passion and the drive to do it like I do. So I continue to do that for myself. Now, if I could go back and tell myself 3 things, they would be to start ugly. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be very pretty to be powerful. I would also say to myself to protect your peace. Not every opinion deserves a seat at your table, right? Because you're always going to have your naysayers, right? Like, what are you doing? That doesn't make sense. It's going to cost too much. Just go to the store and buy it, whatever it may be. And I had a lot of that. I had a lot of, people in my life that thought that, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to start a business with this? But I did it anyway. Because I want to protect my peace. And now being older, and here we are 8 years later with Pampered Soaps, we are definitely in a different place than we were previously in the beginning. So I am big on protecting my peace now. I don't care what people say. Build with vision. I would also tell myself to build with vision. Even on slow days, remember why you started is what I would tell myself. You're not going to sell, hundreds of dollars of product in, a day. Sometimes you will. Some days maybe just 1 or 2 things or 1 or 2 orders. Some days maybe 50, 100 orders. You never know. But build with vision, because you're going to have those slow days, and keep that vision. No matter what the business is. It doesn't have to be like soap business or candle business. It can be any business. Build it with vision. And understand that you're going to have those slow days. You're going to have times when you don't get any sales. And you have to be okay with that, because you're building a brand. So take your time and build a brand. Now, I received some questions on my last 2 podcasts. So I am going to go through some of these questions, and I always like to try to answer these questions that I receive live, because you never know who it may help. So now, in our last episode on creating self-care ritual that sticks, I got some great questions from all of them, all of my listeners and my fan base, I like to call them. So the first question I received, and I'm going to just look at it here. It says, Regina, how do you stay consistent with your business when life gets hectic? Well, that's a great question. 2 things. Systems and seasons. I batch create content when I'm inspired and automate where I can. I mean, now we have AI and all of the bells and whistles, right? So I try to automate where I can. I'm only one person here. I mean, I do have my husband and daughter who help out in the business, but for the most part, I'm the one doing all the creating. But I also honor the natural ebb and flows of my energy. I pay attention to that. Your business should fit your life, not the other way around. So that's how I do that. And because now I'm in a place where I actually run and operate more than one online business, I actually have 3, I have to make sure I'm devoting time. So I devote 2 hours over here, I'll devote 2 hours over there, or an hour, whichever it may be, toward growing the business and making the business better, or whatever it is I may have to do within that business. Some days with Pampered Soaps, it just may be, helping with the processing of orders, or it may be, getting out some more batches of soap or batches of candles for a wholesale order, whatever it may be. That's how I do that. I am very good with time blocking and making sure I am sticking to a schedule. And I think a lot of that stems from the military, when I was in the military, because strict ritual schedule, right? So I am big on time blocking. If I say I'm going to spend 2 hours on Pampered Soaps every day, I spend 2 hours. If I say I'm going to spend, an hour on the other business, then I spend an hour. And it's like that. And then, family time and all of that is included in that. So that's how I do that. Another question I received says, what platform did you use when you first started selling Pampered Soaps? So I started small. We started with Etsy. I think a lot of people start with Etsy because I was just kind of testing the ground, right? I'm like, okay. And I did okay on Etsy. Received a lot of good feedback and reviews, and people just really testing out the soaps and using the soaps and the little creams and everything that we made at the time when we first started. Later on, we moved from Etsy and moved to Shopify because I believe in having control over my customer experience. I don't want to be limited to a marketplace and to be, paying these extra fees that I don't need to pay, and so forth. So we moved to Shopify. I think we were on Etsy probably for about a year. And then we moved to Shopify. Because Shopify gives you all of the control, all of the bells and whistles, I like to call them. So if you're starting out, choose something that is simple for you and scalable. That's what I would say to that. Okay. Another question I received says, do you ever miss when it was just a hobby? And honestly, yes and no. I miss the simplicity, but what I love more is the impact Pampered Soaps has now. I'm not just making products. I am literally creating rituals of healing, and that makes the challenges that we may face worth it. So that's what Pampered Soaps is all about. This is what we're doing. We're creating rituals of self-care and educating everyone on, toxins and chemicals and the things that no one else tells us. What's in our food? What are we eating? What is all this processed chemicals? I mean, a lot of times we just do things out of habit and we don't pay attention. And this is why I try to make and grow as much as possible. So I have, my own vegetable garden for my vegetables, and I have an herb garden. Most of you that follow Pampered Soaps understand that we grow our own herbs on site. I have a big greenhouse and we grow herbs so we can, provide herbal teas for certain things. So we have that. We have chickens, meat chickens and egg chickens. We're not on a farm, but we don't have anything else, just the chickens, because we are trying to be as natural as possible and staying away from those toxins that are in foods and other things that we may consume. They're not always in foods. They're in pretty much everything. And I'll give you a small example real quick with this question. So a lot of us like the coffee creamers, right? I started making my own creamer, and this is why, because I love French vanilla creamer. I used to drink it faithfully. And I really didn't pay attention to the label. To me, it's just creamer. And then the one day that I actually looked at it, and the one main ingredient that stood out to me was vegetable oil. And I'm like, why am I drinking vegetable oil? Why would anyone put vegetable oil in creamer? Like, make it make sense to me. It didn't make sense. But this is in creamers. Vegetable oil. Like, I'm drinking vegetable oil? No, thank you. That's a hard pass for me. So that's when I started saying, okay, what are the things that I can make? And using my, past medical knowledge and my knowledge on herbs and all the things that I know, right? How can I make my own? So now I make my own creamer. I don't buy a lot of things from the store in itself, because now I'm in a place where I understand what I'm purchasing, what's in the meats, what's in the vegetables, what's in, like things like the coffee creamer or whatever it may be that you are buying that you don't really think about, right? So those are the type of things that we've changed. So I know that was a long answer to that question, but that is why we do the things we do. And that's why we are so big on providing the same thing for Pampered Soaps. If we say we are vegan, which we do, then we are true to that. I mean, even for our honey, we use beef-free honey. We mean what we say. So that's what we try to do. So yes and no to that answer as far as do I ever miss when it was a hobby. Because now we're in a place where we can help others and educate others and continue to make beautiful products. So that's where we are. And thank you so much for that question. For all my questions. That was all of the questions that I had. So it doesn't matter whether you're stirring oils in the kitchen or building your brand between school runs and Zoom calls. Know this. You're allowed to build beautifully and slowly. Pampered Soaps was my act of rebellion against burnout and against consuming products that I felt were hurting me internally. Now, Pampered Soaps is a sanctuary for others. That's the power of starting with heart. If this episode inspired you, I'd love for you to leave a comment or share with a friend or tag me on Instagram at Pampered Soaps 500. And don't forget, you can now join our new Facebook community, the Pampered Life, where we talk about luxury, skincare, entrepreneurship, and soulful living. So check that out. Until next time, stay pampered, stay powerful, stay healed. Be blessed.